Just nice and decent people. I just want to give you some of the reasons why I respect and like Vladimir Putin, President of Russia. There are many leaders in the world. Some of them I respect, some I don't. But in my country, St. Lucia, any prime minister that is here, you will never hear me saying bad things about any prime minister of St. Lucia. Now, I'm talking about other countries of the world. From the time when I was growing up, we were exposed by television to the notion that Russia is bad, China is bad. Some of these countries were bad, especially the president of Russia. And there was an effort, a lot of time and money was being spent to try to convince people in the West that Russia was a bad country. Even when you see in some of the movies they tried it too. The Russian guy is always the bad guy. That's what they try to show. But here I have reasons why I particularly like President Vladimir Putin. He's a man that I respect and he's a man that I like. I just like his moves and the way that he is. You can see that Vladimir Putin is just concerned about the well-being of his people, the Russian people. And they have tried to make us believe that he's a very wealthy guy. He have mansions and palaces in different places and all of that. And the people are whatever. But from my personal experience dealing with a Russian, at that time I was studying soil science and I had a friend from Russia. He was studying chemistry. We were doing, both of us were doing graduate work. We were very close. He told me that when he was growing up, they had to stand on lines. His parents, his family had to stand on lines for hours just to get bread and milk and butter. Stand on a line. And that's how that was the reality of life. So he told me that when President Putin became president of Russia, things changed. They started eating better. Even there are other Russian people I have heard saying that before Vladimir Putin, there were certain places you couldn't go, there was crime. But from the time when Vladimir Putin took over, that whole thing had to stop. I have looked at situations where Vladimir Putin will be driving through an area and he will just stop his motorcade. And his security men sometimes will not want him to go in certain places or abruptly interrupt the plan that they have for him. He would interrupt and he would just stop and listen to what the poor people and the ordinary people had to say. There was a case where I listened to some soldiers. They were complaining that they were not getting fresh foods. And the villagers that he spoke to on one occasion when he was passing through, they told him about the things that were happening, their plight and things. So Vladimir Putin went to a meeting with his leaders and he told them that the soldiers are complaining that they are not getting good food. I want that to stop today. And he said that some people told him about certain things that they were not getting certain benefits or whatever. He want that thing to stop today. And these are, you see that idea of I want that thing to change today? That's one of the things that really gravitated me towards him because he understood the people's situation. He understood their plight. And he was committed to things changing. And it looked like there were people who had a habit of doing things in the old way and they just refused to change. And if Vladimir Putin, they had to change. I know a lot of the world have a resentment towards him for the situation in Ukraine, which I believe that things should have never gone that far. But if you have to go back to some of the to some of the laws, to some of the things that they signed, sometimes you can understand the grievances that Vladimir Putin has against the West and against even Ukraine. When I look at Vladimir, he looked like his whole mission is to make life better for Russia. And he's doing a lot of thinking. His technocrats and his people are doing a lot of thinking to try to see how they could manipulate or how they could use their resources, their influence to gain an advantage, especially as it relates to the fights, the Cold Wars against the West. So, even when he moves, Vladimir Putin move around, he moves it for purpose. The way he works, the places that he visits, very strategic in his approach. And he's not trying to be liked by men. He's just trying to take care of his people and to give Russia an advantage. When I look at him, Vladimir Putin, I think basically in essence, he wants a better quality of life for the people of Russia. And he wants to put Russia at a place in the world where Russia will have certain benefits, advantages, and leeway to as they navigate in terms of how they deal with other countries and the benefits that they derive. And he wants to kind of protect Russia from certain countries of the West, especially America and the European Union countries. But the main understanding of Vladimir Putin came from that friend that I had in America when I was going to school. This Russian partner, the chemist, that really opened my eyes to how they were suffering, how things was rough with them, and when Vladimir Putin came, how he caused things to become better for them. In a lot of cases, we listen to the news, we listen to CNN news. We grew up listening to CNN news, BBC news, and all of these news outlets. And a lot of these news outlets are very biased and unfair to the West. The only thing that is good is things that is done in America and England and those places. And they try to demonize other countries. But in spite of all of those things, I can say unequivocally, I'm not talking about St. Lucia, because this is my place, and anybody that's the prime minister of the country, I respect them. I do not like when people say Compton has not done anything in the country. I do not like when people say Kenny Anthony has not done anything in the country. As for me, in my time and in my era, the prime minister that I'd liked the most, really liked, was Kenny Anthony. And I respect every prime minister we had in St. Lucia. And I will never go and speak ill of any prime minister. Even in the last election, I deliberately didn't post anything. Because, I'm just watching, and somehow I don't want to, contaminate the thoughts of the people in that process in a way. I try to kind of be objective in the way I look at things. And in some cases, even when I see major situation, I never come on my channel and talk. There were major things that I see and I never made it come on my channel and talk about it. But the prime ministers of the countries, I respect every single prime minister in this country, and I will not go and talk ill of any prime minister. but to say the ones that I respect the most. In my era, the one that I liked the most was Kenny Anthony. And to me, the two best prime ministers we ever had in St. Lucia was John Compton and Kenny Anthony. We have one now, Philip J. Pierre. He have to, he still is young in the thing. So we have to see what he brings. We can categorically say he's the best or whatever. We have to see what he brings. So I will not go and say anything bad about any leader in Prime Minister. We had Prime Minister King, Chasney. I will not go and say anything bad about any Prime Minister. But in terms of foreign countries, they